So a lot of the times people will tell you need to have more like self-control, and we'll tell ourselves that we need to have more self-control, which in a way it is true in order to make decisions that are geared towards God. But then it's also in the same sense, it's realizing that God is also sovereign and that you're not fully in control.
Between the Grooves is hosted by James Curtis, music director and morning man in the Greater Toronto Area on Joy Radio, and Ayiesha Woods, Grammy-nominated singer, songwriter, and musician. Together, they talk with artists and industry insiders to discover our connection between music and faith. You can connect with us on Facebook or Twitter at Between Grooves. Now, here's James and Ayiesha.
You know, one of the things that we haven't mentioned, and I should probably do it now, Ayiesha, is we were recently nominated for a Covenant Award.
Congratulations on the nod.
Yeah, congratulations to you as well. I mean, over the last year, I think I mentioned this previously, we've had 10,000 downloads of the podcast. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, and so we've been nominated for it's the Covenant Awards, which recognizes Christian artists and groups in Canada, whether it be their songs or their songwriting ability, or their album covers or their artwork and all, producers, everybody in the industry. And this is the first time they've had a category for radio, podcast, personality, or duo of the year or something like that.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So find out next month if we win or not. But we're up against some other couple of good candidates, as it were. The Why Me Project, which is part of the Faith Strong Today network as well. That's up. Cool. As well as Chelsea Amber, who has been a previous guest on Between the Grooves. She's a singer-songwriter out of British Columbia, and she's got a podcast called Christian Guitar Girls, and she's been doing that for the last little while as well. So
that's neat.
Yeah. So I mean, whoever wins. That's great.
Right.
They always say
but just to be
nominated, and I know
that's a pretty big deal.
It's kind of a cliche thing, but it is. Whoever wins. Great. I'm not going to sweat it. So,
Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen. And let's make this week's episode happen. Today, we're chatting with JOliver. He's a fairly new, up and rising Christian hip hop rap artist. And he actually reached out to us a few weeks back, or maybe a couple of months ago, and thought it'd be great to have the conversation. And so that is what we're going to do right now. Justin Oliver on Between the Grooves.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. How about you?
Doing well.
Good. Are you at the studio?
I'm actually not. I'm at work right now. So when I'm not doing music and stuff, I'm also a news producer for TV, for local TV. Yeah, so that's kind of my 9-to-5 job during the week, and then outside of that, I do music, and then I have Army stuff. I'm in the Army Reserves, so.
Wow.
Kind of a packed schedule, but I make it work.
Right.
Did you study journalism? Is that the reason why you're doing the TV news thing?
I did. I actually, I have a bachelor's degree in communications focused on broadcast. Nice. So.
And TV versus radio or any other medium, I guess that was the direction you decided to take?
Right, yeah. It was, I mean, I've inquired about radio. I have worked briefly for radio, for Cumulus Media back like years ago, but for some reason, I really my first job was a TV producer, and I've kind of just stuck with it. And yeah, I've been doing that for the past like 5 years.
Sure.
Yeah.
How often are you in front of the camera?
Never, because I don't. That was never my aspiration to be in front of the camera. Actually, I just not like a big like camera in front of the camera person. So, but I love, like I said, I love making music. So,
how did the love of music start? Because you weren't. I suppose I should clarify, because you didn't always, I'm assuming, do Christian music, because you only became a Christian a few years ago, right?
That's correct. I actually was saved in March of 2021. So I'm a very relatively Christian. Yes. But that doesn't discredit anything that my dad did, because my dad was very heavily in the church, and he took me to church all the time. Growing up, I was just a very rebellious kid. So it just took me a while to find my own journey. You know, it was always his faith, not mine necessarily. And so, so yeah, but eventually, you know, God worked as he does, and he was able to impact me.
So take us through the transition then. You did music, and then I guess you started studying for, you know, in communications and whatnot. You started doing the TV news and journalism, and then was the military. Is that what happened?
Right. So basically I started doing music in 2012. So that was like high school for me. Graduated high school in 2014, and then kind of took a break for a little bit of music. And during that time, I was very I was always pursuing college. So in that period of like 2015 to 2017, my mind was solely focused on like making the grades, because my dad, I was very blessed to have a father that paid for my education, but it didn't come without discipline. You know, he wanted me to maintain a 3.0. And so I was very conscious of that all the time, and realizing that if I didn't make this, you know, this threshold, then basically I wasn't going to be there for the next semester. So
yeah, that's fair.
I was really
that's fair.
Yeah,
if somebody's paying for the education, you got to set the goals and achieve a certain you know, certain part.
Exactly. And that also, that goes with saying, like, I saw so many people, because I went to Navarro first. So I went to Corsicana at a junior college, Navarro College. And I saw so many kids that had this free, you know, money from the government, like grant money, and just completely, you know, waste it and not use what was given to them. And so, like, my dad always was willing to give, but he also had, you know, requirements of me. And so I'm very thankful for his discipline, and it's made me into who I am today. But yeah, so I went, and I was able to maintain the 3.0. I ended up transferring over from Corsicana to UTA, so University of Texas at Arlington. And basically, whenever I did that, I started pursuing my communications degree, and I finished in 2017 at the University of Texas at Arlington. And then after that, I really I started to get back into music, but it was still secular music, so I didn't necessarily know. Like, I was still confused in a way of not really wanting to fully commit myself to God, but I still like was making music that that was, you know, reflective of what I was feeling at the time. And so I was dealing with a lot of, like, you know, emotions, a lot of you know, things that we generally take to God, like depression, and just a bunch of conflict within me. And like, that's really like what my EP was in 2018. It's saying everything's fine, but it's really not. And that's the name of the EP. And so whenever I got done with that, I took a break again from music for a while. I traveled to Odessa, I traveled to Colorado Springs, and then I came back. And then kind of fast forward to September of 2020, my wife, we started dating, and one of our biggest things was to get back in the church, but we weren't necessarily like moving fast, you know, like we were kind of just, it's kind of just one of those things like, yeah, we'll get to it when it happens. And so I remember one night, we're still living in two different places because we're not, you know, married yet. We're not like, together in that way. But basically I had a dream that the rapture happened. And so when I had that dream, I remember waking up and I was like covered in, you know, just like covered in sweat. And I had to go outside and just really think about what my next steps were going to be. And when I called her, I told her the same thing of just saying how how this needed to be a priority for us. And that like we need to put this at like the center of our relationship. We need to make this our foundation. And she was in complete agreement, but you know, she had never stepped foot in a church, so it was really different for her. But anyway, so we decided to join Green Acres Baptist Church here in Tyler, and we started going pretty consistently. And you know, about 4 or 5 months passed by. This is March of 2021 now. We both get saved, and then we end up getting baptized that same year on Easter.
Wow.
And then we got engaged in May, and then we got married in November. So 2021 was a really, really, really big year. And God moved heavily. But it still took like about 2 years. I mean, after all that happened, I mean, I started feeling really convicted about like where I was working at, and mainly because like the stuff that I was running and decisions that were made from a corporate level were just not aligning with what my views were anymore. And I just started to feel really convicted about that. And so that's why I held on for a while. I extended my contract for a little bit, but in December of 2022, I decided to leave that station. And that's when I joined the military. So I went off to basic training earlier this year in January, and it was about 17 weeks in Fort Jackson. So, I mean, God moved really, really heavily in that time when I was there. I mean, I led Bible study. I never had to, I mean, I led the groups, you know, when I was in basic training and AIT, like it was very crazy to see how God used me in order to impact people. And I just, every time I think about that experience, I'm so grateful for it, because I gained a lot of friends, and I also think I was able to kind of plant the seed in a lot of people in an environment where it's very kind of brutal in a way.
Sure. Did you write any songs during basic training?
Yeah. I didn't write any songs, but I wrote a lot of devotionals for people. And I wrote a lot of like it was like I made these handouts, and I gave them to the drill sergeants so they can make copies to hand out to people. And it would be like a weekly thing that I worked on to, you know, whatever the message is. And it would usually be in correlation with like some of the activities we have going on. And I just thought it's very encouraging to see that, like, especially when everybody has their technology taken away, that, you know, they're able to get really close with God, and including myself. That was probably the closest I've ever been to the Lord, because I didn't have anything else to distract me. So
has the journalism side of things for you played a part in your music writing?
I think so, but I don't think it's something that I notice, if that makes sense. Like, because when you're a writer, it kind of just, you do it without even thinking about it. But I would definitely say that it does, for sure.
I mean, as far as journalism is concerned, you're supposed to be objective. You're supposed to show different points of view. You're supposed to show balance. And I guess that's the reason why I'm asking, because journalism is very, very difficult. And I don't think we necessarily see a lot of that these days anyways. All of those, you know, that criteria as far as journalism is concerned. So that's why I was asking if that part of it, you know, plays into your songwriting.
I think more of and you can probably notice this as well, is like journalism has really turned more into opinion, and more like editorials than it has
less factual than somebody's opinion or somebody just trying to get onto their soapbox.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, are you going to watch CNN or watch Fox? You know what I mean? Because your viewpoints are going to go this way or they're going to go that way. You know what I mean? And, you know, I've always been a big believer, especially when I've worked in the business, of how sacred it is to preserve journalism, because people need to digest these facts themselves. It's not our job to input, you know, opinion to these stories.
Yeah, exactly.
And, but I mean, as far as like music, I think the storytelling aspect is more what I see that transitions over, like telling a story from start to finish or finding a creative way to tell a story. I think those things are the ones that are able to carry over the most. Because when it comes to me writing my music, I mean, it's what I believe in, you know what I mean? And sometimes, when I write stories here, like I can't just, write what I believe in all the time, because it's not necessarily a story about me. That's not like a story about me writing what my personal thoughts are. A lot of the time it's about like being objective and running a story to let people decipher what they want to decipher from it. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a little bit different in that aspect, but the storytelling definitely transitions over for me, at least in my experience.
And what about the genre of music? I mean, obviously you're doing Christian music now, but you're kind of more of a hip hop rap style. Why that versus your typical CCM sound or country or gospel or whatever?
Yeah, so I grew up listening to a lot of secular rap. Hip hop was kind of like what I gravitated towards. I'm not necessarily sure why. My mom or dad did not play that type of music around me.
Turn down that music.
Yeah.
That's not music.
Basically, and which is so funny. I mean, my dad is very much country. He's like, as far as like, I mean, as you can get in the boondocks, like as far as you can get in the boondocks, my dad is there. Like 100%. He literally wants to, like, his dream in life is to, like, when he retires, is to go out in the woods and like grow like a massive beard and just like hunt animals. Like that's just kind of like what he wants to do. So that's
not
like
mad at dad.
Yeah. But so that's my dad's dream. And then my mom, like, into like, I want to say my mom was more into like Dolly Parton and those type of people. Like, I mean so both
classic country, huh?
Yeah, classic country, and just like nothing to do with, like, I mean, literally nothing to do with rap and hip hop. I don't know why, but I mean, it was just something that always was different for me. And I just, it's funny, even now when I make music, I pull influences not necessarily from, like, I don't listen to Christian rap and hip hop all the time. Like it's probably makes up like 2% of my playlist. Like I listen to like worship, I listen to gospel music, I listen to contemporary Christian music, I listen to, like, those are where I pull influences from. Like
Gotcha.
and I think it's because I just don't want to replicate a sound from somebody else. Because I think if we listen to if I were to listen to Christian rap all the time, then I'm going to try to mimic whatever I'm listening to. And I just don't think that's not really what I want to do. I'd rather like create something unique from pulling all these other influences. And then using, well, how can I give my original sound to this? That's just how I.
Do you do that with country though?
Yeah. I just, the thing is I actually do. So one of my favorite artists is actually, y'all probably know her, is Ann Wilson. I actually listen to her a lot.
Yes.
Because she's probably about as Christian country as it gets. But I think it reminds me a lot of like my roots and where I came from. And even though I don't necessarily make music like that, it just somehow has a major impact on me. So
let me tell you about my Justin.
Yeah, exactly. We actually went to her concert this past weekend. She was in Longview. My mom and all of us went out to it, and it was really, really great. She's so talented, and I love her story.
I had coffee with a friend of mine yesterday. He's an ex-radio guy, and he's very, very musical. He's not a Christian or anything like that. When he left radio years ago, he was actually working on the cruise ships. He did that for about 5 years, and he was Mr. DJ. He was the guy on the deck playing the music, and he loved all the stops in the different islands and the different countries and stuff. And he would actually try to find the underground music, the stuff that you wouldn't necessarily hear. He said, he wouldn't go on the typical excursions. He would go, if they were docking somewhere in Africa, he would go and try to find music that related to the culture in Africa or Norway or Russia or whatever. And then he would try to take all that stuff on these, CDs with, markings with a marker on there versus an actual legal CD, I suppose, and take all this stuff and then mix it in with his music on the ship.
Yeah.
And that kind of influenced him. He says he just loves exploring all this other style of music, even though like he's a rock guy, but he explores all this music just to hear the different sounds and the creativity and the way, artists do things. And I guess, if you're a hip hop artist, but listening to country or being influenced by country or gospel or whatever else, it would be the same sort of idea, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think it just circles back to like the gifts that God's given you, like he's given me the gift to make this genre of music, but that doesn't mean that like you're still like, even just being like an artist, you can still appreciate and also decipher other people's music and hear all the musical elements that go into it. And you don't listen to it as like a surface level person usually does. You really dig into it and listen to all the unique elements that it's made up of. And so yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that it definitely makes my music better whenever I am able to gravitate towards, other areas of music, necessarily what I'm creating. So I love it. Like I said, if you looked at my playlist, it would probably be not what many think, because I just don't Christian rap. I don't. But I mean, that's not to say I don't like it. I do love it, but
sure,
don't listen to a ton of it.
So how did you hook up with Compass Music?
Actually through Laurel, Laurel. But Lauren actually gave me a call. Well, actually, I reached out to Lauren about doing a feature with Laurel, and then which we're still working on a song together, but it hasn't released yet. But just because I've been trying to get this next single out, and then I would say that single will probably drop like next year, but just because we're coming up on the holidays and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of how it happened. She reached out to me after my first single came out. And she could, a lot of people could tell, like they knew I had a musical background based on my first song, because generally when somebody releases their first song, it's a growing process. You know what I mean? Like you release a song and then you're like, yeah, that can use some work. You can work on the mixing. You can work on this. You can work on, your sound development and what you want your sound to be. But with me already having a musical background, I already knew a lot of those things. Like I was already kind of steps ahead. I hadn't released Christian music. And so when my first single came out, she listened to it and she said that she really wanted to work with me. And then Lauren gave me a call a couple days later and asked if I'd be considered, or if I would be considering management, or wanted to need management. And I told her that that'd be super helpful, because I have a million things going a day. So,
well, given the fact that you have a full-time job and you're doing the music thing and trying to get in there and use the word get noticed, or make an impact, it's helpful to have some kind of management team behind you taking care of some of the smaller details that you just don't have time to do.
Absolutely.
For sure. And she's great at that. Like she's been a huge help.
Yeah. What do they do for you?
It's just like, well, one of the things, obviously, like artist development, and then also like branding. They work on my website. A lot of the promo images, or like whenever I have like, I'll be featured, or if a radio picks up my song or something like that, they'll make me a graphic for social medias and stuff like that. Like stuff that I just, can't hop on, Canva and spend like a couple hours trying to make the graphics myself. Like it's really, really helpful that somebody's, able to invest in your career and help you with that. And so they do a great job with that. They really do.
Ayiesha, you're kind of an independent artist, I guess technically, because you do have people that help you as well.
Sure.
But is it easier because you're on staff at a church? Does that give you the time to develop the music side, or is it just something that you're doing on the side, and when it happens, it happens?
When it happens, it happens. And honestly, like in this season, it's interesting because life's all about seasons, right? And I find now that having help and people with certain areas of expertise, if they can be on team with you, gosh, it just makes life and ministry so much easier. When you have people a part of your team that understand the vision and understand the season, and they're gifted at what they do, whether it be social media or management or production or more administrative, just whatever it is that they're very good at. If they're on board with you and you're on board with them, it just makes it so much easier for you to focus on what it is that God has called you to do and be able to do it well.
Yeah, if somebody, if somebody is good at something, and you could possibly do it as well, but they can do it quicker, they can do it faster, they can do it better. That's got to be worth something. If it takes you 3 times or 4 times as long to do it, then it's from a very financial standpoint, it just makes sense to have somebody doing it for you.
Absolutely.
100%.
Like I have my boys cut the grass.
Yeah, because they're better at it.
Exactly. They could never do it.
That's what my wife says too. I don't think my wife has ever pushed a lawnmower in her life.
Good for her.
That's what I tell my wife that too, with dinner. I'm like, I can never make it like you do,
Uh-huh. You're a smart man. Keep telling her that too.
Jay, can you tell us what is in store now moving forward? Like, what are your plans as far as the music side of things, given the fact that you're also doing the journalism stuff, you're on standby for the military as well. So how does music play into that going forward?
Yeah, so my plan right now is I have a single dropping at the end of the month. Been working a lot on it to get it.
Congratulations.
Ready to go. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's a really personal record because it talks about a lot of so in life we're given, this free will to basically make choices. So a lot of the times people will tell you need to have more like self-control, and we'll tell ourselves that we need to have more self-control, which in a way it is true in order to make decisions that are geared towards God. But then it's also, in the same sense, it's realizing that God is also sovereign and that you're not fully in control. And so it's kind of like that wrestling mindset that we all deal with of how much control do we actually have in this situation, or do we have any at all, or you know what I mean? Like, and so it talks about just ultimately at the end of the day, you have to let go of the overall aspect of thinking you have control of everything. So letting go of that self-control in that aspect, but also realizing that you do have free will. But yeah, I'm really excited about the record because it's a personal one for me that really convicted me when I was writing my verse for it. And then also because it's a combination. It's I have a rapping verse on there, and then there's a bunch of singing. So
and what's the name of the single?
It's called Let It Go.
Let It Go.
I could have guessed that based on the description of it. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
And then my wife had to remind me that there's already a pretty popular song called Let It Go, and it's not has anything to do with
No, but the hashtag works, you'll get some free publicity that way, right?
People from Frozen will come over and
exactly
say, hey.
Yeah.
What's this? No.
Does your wife have any musical ability?
You're going to get me in trouble.
Tread carefully.
I know you're gonna,
It's like she cooks well. She cooks well.
That's right. Completely change the topic.
She is very enthusiastic when it comes to singing.
Okay.
She has great energy, and she has dance moves.
She makes
that
a
are
joyful noise.
Yeah, she has dance moves that are her. You can't find them anywhere else. And there you go. That's how I'll word it. She's great.
That was a very safe response.
There's something she said about a marriage, just where like you have strengths and you have weaknesses. I surely have weaknesses, and she balances them out with her strengths. So
yeah,
it's stuff that I could never do. Yeah.
Jay, thanks so much for hanging with us on Between the Grooves. Appreciate it.
And thank y'all so much, seriously, for letting me come on and spill about my testimony for a little bit and get to learn a little bit more about y'all.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, grateful. Jay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I think he's fairly young.
I think so. I mean, he was talking about the fact that when he finished his bachelor's in communications, he was doing some of that TV work to start, and then was doing some news coverage, served in the military for a little bit, and then came back and did the music thing. So yeah, I would say less than 30 for sure. Definitely
got a
guy.
Future ahead of him.
Yeah, definitely a guy you want to keep an eye on. You can check out his website, musicbyjoliver.com.
All right. Well, before we get out of here this week, let's listen to some artist advice from George Mondera.
I think stay true to who you are, to what you feel your calling is, what God's called you to do. And then the second thing, for the artists as well, like we've done it, like stay true to who you are, because I feel like sometimes along the way it's easy to look, to get off track of what you felt you wanted to do, and because you just start chasing what's around and you're doing things just to fit in to what maybe the system is like sometimes, and you lose who you are in that, and so I don't know, I'll just say, just stay true to who you are. I mean, I say this because one thing, I mean, I'm a kid from Africa, and sometimes, so my story is different from a lot of other people's stories, and so sometimes, people want you to tell a story a certain way, in a way that's not you, or a sound that's not you, or some things. And so, if you don't know that, you can lose yourself along the way or get diluted along the way one day. So, always stay true to who you are. I guess that's what I would say.
Authenticity.
Yeah, we've heard it before, and I gotta say though, I love that accent. I said it previously.
I know.
I just love that accent. Anybody
Isn't
from
it cool?
Anybody from Africa that has that accent, I just love it. It's just so it makes you want to listen. Makes you want to listen. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Stay true to your calling. Stay true to who you are. It's so easy to get distracted, as he mentioned, and even it could be even a label, telling you what you should be doing versus what you believe your true calling is to be. And now I'm not downplaying labels, because they know the ingredients. They know what it takes to succeed. But maybe that's not you either, right? Maybe you have a different future. Maybe you have a different goal, and you got to stay true to that.
Yeah, you absolutely do. And getting lost along the way it's very easy to happen. And so maintaining your focus and staying in relationship with Jesus, he will constantly remind you, if you allow him, of what he has called you to and what you're supposed to be. And
that is it. We are out of time. There's the music. Thanks, Justine, for prompting us that it's time for us to go. She always has that little cue for us. So that is it for this week on Between the Grooves. Thanks for checking us out, and make sure you tune in next week for another great episode.
Thanks for listening to Faith Strong Today's Between the Grooves podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider sharing it with your friends, rating our podcast, or giving us some love on your socials to your amazing friends and followers will only help us reach more people. We'd also love to hear from you and share your feedback in an upcoming episode. Send your video or written message to Ayiesha and James on Facebook and Twitter @Between Grooves, or email us anytime, hello@faithstrongtoday.com.